Okay, so I've been looking at the Supreme's Court take on Trump versus United States. And we're getting all into the realm of absolute immunity. And they've got into some extraordinary situations and hypothetical situations where what if the president annihilates his opponents and would he have presidential immunity? But I think very much the question of absolute presidential immunity is not even relevant in this particular case with Trump versus the United States. Because it's not a question of absolute immunity. Absolute immunity is definitely not a thing because there's so much remedies to deal with a president's unlawful actions. You have impeachment. And Article 2 of the Constitution is quite clear. It has said that you can resort or look for remedies legally within the law after an impeachment by 2/3 majority vote of the Senate. So there is a remedy. The remedy is clear. Impeachment by 2/3 of the Senate, and subsequent to impeachment, then you can pursue any liability under the law. That is absolutely clear. So this discussion of absolute immunity, there is no absolute immunity. But you need not litigate absolute immunity. It was already shown that there is no absolute immunity by Nixon versus the United States. He had no choice but to hand over the tapes. So there is no absolute immunity. But that is not what should be argued in this case, because Trump was well within his right constitutionally to question an election. And he did not incite an insurrection. He has not been charged with insurrection. He was specific when he said to the mob or the crowd, go to the Capitol and protest peacefully. So he didn't incite an insurrection. That's obvious. As to all the other things that took place peripheral to his fight and questioning election, he is not responsible for that. There is an absolute right to question the election, as has been done many a times in the past, and to seek all possible remedies to that question, especially if you believe that a particular election was rife with irregularities. Even the whole idea of fake electors, I am confused because the Constitution is clear in the procedure for certifying the electors. If the electors are certified by the legislature of the state, then it cannot be questioned. And if it has to be questioned, there's a limited time to question it. And if it doesn't work at the state level and there's further questioning, then that is handled by Congress. So, this is a specifically drawn out process that is handled by the Constitution. As for fake electors and all this other allegations, it's kind of weird because the Constitution is clear on the procedure for the certificate of ascertainment and the certificate of vote, which is done by the executive of the state and signed by the governor. So it's kind of weird. I don't even understand why there is some question of fake electors. So anything that is not certified by the executive of the state, that does not have a certificate of ascertainment or a certificate of vote, is illegitimate, would not be taken up by Congress. So how does fake electors even come into play? It's weird. As for the Court of Appeals saying that there'll be some sort of collapse in the authority of the separation of powers and the president would be above the law if he's not held accountable, It doesn't make any sense because the president cannot be above the law. There is already remedies to ensure that the president is not above the law. That is why there is impeachment. The impeachment clauses in the Constitution ensures that the president is not above the law. Congress is the check and balance. The president cannot act with impunity because Congress is there to ensure that he does not overstep his bounds. The bottom line is this. Much of what is being litigated now has already been litigated by an impeachment trial towards the end of Trump's presidency. So in many respects, what has been litigated is being relitigated because of the dissatisfaction with the result at the end of his presidency. And of course, the motives for relitigating is obvious. The problem is, in pursuit of those motives, that a dangerous precedence is being set if their goals and aims are achieved. Because it means that every president that subsequently leaves office can be held liable for their actions while they were in office. And what you have, you will possibly create a cycle of retributive justice, which is not healthy for the union and creates more problems than it solves. This is something that should be carefully considered instead of selfish political aims.